My name's Jamie Knott. I'm the chef owner of the Saddle River Inn.
I'm David Madison. I'm part owner of the Saddle River Inn.
My passion for cooking started when I was a young kid.
As a kid, I always had a knack for cooking, and my parents were kind of gourmets.
My grandmother was a chef in Baltimore for an underground casino because gambling's illegal in Maryland. So, you know, I spent my whole childhood at her house really watching her cook.
I only did two things as a kid. I cooked a Caesar salad, you know, and like apple pies.
My first job was a busboy when I was 13.
I had a part-time job. I got it at Wine and Spirit World in Hohokus.
I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career, and I had a serious conversation with my father, and he said, you know, if culinary is something you want to do and you love, and you want to be taken seriously, you should go to school for it.
And one day, this guy walks in, Joseph Centenary, who used to have Joseph's.
So I did, followed his advice, and I went to New York restaurant school, and I graduated second in my class.
He came to me at the store and he goes, I just really think you could be great in the restaurant business. Do you want to come and try and work with me? And he goes, I want to like teach you from the ground up, and then you can end up running my place. I have a good feeling.
I did my externship at a French Moroccan bistro called Cafe Central, which is in the MetLife building.
Well, Joseph really taught me everything in the restaurant business, and I worked up on Cape Cod for a couple of years.
I was about, I think I was 25 or 26. I was the executive chef at China Grill, which has been there 22 years. You know, it's a $12 million restaurant. It was a big job for a young guy.
My first big break was unquestionably working for Jeremiah Towers in San Francisco. At the time, Star's restaurant was considered one of the elite restaurants of the country.
And then they offered me the executive chef position at the Empire Hotel, which is a $25 million food and beverage operation on right on Broadway and 63rd across from Lincoln Center. That was an amazing experience, a huge undertaking for me.
I've had the opportunity to work for a lot of famous chefs, and working for John George was right at the top.
We opened a fine dining seafood restaurant with Chef Ed Brown called Edge Chowder House.
I opened up Spice Market as the general manager, and at the time it just had this buzz leading up to it that was, you could feel it in the air in New York City. It was my first GM job in New York, and I always said that if I was really going to be anybody in this business, you have to have a GM job in New York.
He's an amazing chef, and I learned a lot, and we had a lot of similarities in our styles because, you know, I'm from Baltimore, and that's an East Coast seafood restaurant, town, I mean, and, you know, the restaurant was East Coast seafood driven, so it's very near and dear to my heart.
Steven Starr comes in with his entourage, and at the end of the meal, he gives me his card, and he says, give me a call. So the next day I call him, I just got the space for Budokan in New York, and I want you to be the opening GM. I'm like, you're kidding me.
And then they offered me a job at another hotel, the Aventi Hotel, to run the food and beverage operation, which I took.
So during that time, I mentioned to Alfred Portale that I was unhappy about this latest thing. He goes, Tom Colicchio's looking for somebody just like you. He's just expanding his empire, and I think you guys will really click.
And at that time, I started talking to a friend of mine who did some consulting, and he introduced me to Terrence Brennan, who's the chef owner at Artisanal in Picheline, and we hit it off, you know, and he hired me as a consultant, and then the second day he offered me the executive chef job, the second day I was there.
One interview with Tom with his feet up on the desk, you know, on 19th Street, and I was hired and I was off and running. I worked with him for a couple months in New York to learn the culture. And then I went off to Dallas to open up his first kind of, you know, restaurant outside of his web.
One of the best experiences, food experiences I've had. Terrence is a super talented, you know, cook, which is what we all are. That's where we all start, right?
So after Tom Colicchio, basically, yeah, comes Smashburger.
Just a great all-around guy, and I traveled and I did food and wine with him in Pebble Beach, and, you know, some great experiences. So that's where I met David, my partner.
We figured it wasn't going to work long term, and I really put my focus on finding a restaurant, and that's what led me to Jamie.
He was director of operations at the time for Artisanal. He came on about 4 months after I started, I think, and we hit it off, and we said, we're going to open a restaurant someday.
We're very serious. I got my partner. Please send us a restaurant.
And, you know, 3 years later, here we are, sitting in our own restaurant in Saddle River.
And along comes the Saddle River Inn.